The doors of Serena Cole's wedding hall opened at the worst possible moment. Guests turned. Conversations stopped. A man in a simple black suit walked in calm, steady, out of place. Serena smiled, then froze. It was Daniel Wright, the poor cleaner she had invited as a joke. 3 weeks ago, she laughed while inviting him, certain he would never come, certain he would stay invisible where people like him belonged. But today, Daniel showed up, and the question was no longer who he was. It was who would be humiliated now. Daniel Wright pushed the cleaning cart across the 42nd floor of Cole Dynamics every night at 9:30. The hallways were empty by then. Most employees had gone home hours earlier. Only security remained, nodding at him from behind their desks, their attention already back on their phones. He preferred it this way. No one watched him. No one asked questions. No one expected him to explain why a man his age 34 was emptying trash bins in a building full of people half his age earning 10 times his salary. Daniel didn't mind the work itself. It was honest. It paid rent. It kept food on the table for Lucas. That was enough. He cleaned methodically, floor by floor, office by office. Glass desks wiped clean. Carpets vacuumed in straight lines. Trash collected. Recycling sorted. He moved through the spaces like a ghost, touching everything, noticed by no one. The building managers never complained. Daniel was reliable in a way that made him forgettable. He had learned long ago that invisible was safer than noticed. At 11:15, Daniel clocked out. He walked 6 blocks to the bus stop, rode 20 minutes to the south end, then walked another 4 blocks to the apartment. The lights were still on. Mrs. Chen opened the door before he could knock. She was 72, gray-haired, patient in ways Daniel could never repay. "Lucas finished his homework," she said quietly. "He ate the soup. He wanted to wait up for you." Daniel handed her $40. "Thank you." She waved it off like she always did, but took it anyway. They both knew she needed it. Inside, Lucas was asleep on the couch, a library book open on his chest. Daniel lifted him carefully, carried him to the bedroom, pulled the blanket over him. Lucas stirred. "Dad, I'm here. Did you have a good day?" Daniel looked at his son's face, small, trusting, unaware of how hard things were. "Yeah, buddy, I did." Lucas smiled and turned over. Daniel stood there for a moment, watching him breathe. This was the only thing that mattered. Not the job. Not the building. Not the people who walked past him every day without seeing him. Just this. He went to the kitchen, made himself a sandwich, sat at the table in the dark. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a cramped kitchen, a living room that doubled as Daniel's sleeping space. The furniture was second-hand. The walls needed paint. The faucet dripped no matter how many times he tightened it. But it was theirs. Daniel had been raising Lucas alone since his wife left 4 years ago. She had walked out one morning with a suitcase and an apology he didn't ask for. He hadn't heard from her since. At first, it had been overwhelming. Lucas was 3 then, still learning to talk, still needing everything. Daniel didn't know how to braid hair or cook anything beyond pasta. He didn't know how to answer questions about why Mommy wasn't coming back. But he learned. He learned to wake up at 5 to pack lunches. He learned which foods Lucas would actually eat. He learned to read bedtime stories with different voices for each character. He learned to be both parents, even when he had no idea what he was doing. Lucas never asked for much. A new toy, a trip to the zoo, a birthday party with his friends. Daniel gave what he could. It wasn't always enough. But it was something. He finished his sandwich, washed the plate, turned off the light. Tomorrow would be the same as today. Wake up, get Lucas ready, drop him at school, sleep a few hours, pick Lucas up, make dinner, go to work, come home. Repeat. Daniel didn't dream of wealth. He didn't imagine a life where he wore suits and made decisions in boardrooms. He just wanted Lucas to have more than this. More than a father who came home smelling like disinfectant. more than an apartment where the heat didn't always work in winter, more than a childhood built on "we can't afford that right now." Daniel lay down on the couch, pulled the thin blanket over himself, closed his eyes. He didn't know that in 3 weeks, his entire world would shift. He didn't know that the woman who signed his paychecks would offer him something meant to humiliate him, and he didn't know that he would accept it anyway. Serena Cole stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of her office, looking down at the city below. From this height, everything looked small, manageable, under control. She liked it that way. Cole Dynamics was her creation. 10 years ago, she had taken a failing tech consultancy and turned it into one of the most profitable firms in the region. 300 employees, 12 floors, contracts with half the Fortune 500. She had built it all through discipline, precision, and an unwillingness to accept anything less than excellence. People respected her, feared her, sometimes, but mostly respected her. Serena had built her reputation on precision. She didn't tolerate mistakes. She didn't accept excuses. She hired the best, paid them well, and expected excellence in return. Those who couldn't deliver didn't last long. Her office reflected that philosophy: minimalist, clean, expensive without being ostentatious. A glass desk with nothing on it but a laptop and a single pen. White walls, black furniture, a view that reminded everyone who entered that they were standing in the presence of someone who had climbed very high. Serena's assistant knocked softly before entering. "Your 4 o'clock is here," Patricia said. Serena didn't turn around. "Send them in." The meeting was routine. A prospective client, nervous and eager to impress. Serena listened, asked pointed questions, made no promises. By 4:30, they were gone. She didn't think about them again. That evening, Serena stayed late going over wedding details with Patricia. The ceremony was 3 weeks away. Every detail had been planned months in advance. Venue, catering, flowers, music, nothing left to chance. She was marrying Connor Hastings, a corporate attorney with the right background, the right connections, the right ambitions. Their engagement had been efficient. No drama, no surprises. Just 2 successful people agreeing that their lives aligned. Serena didn't believe in fairy tales. She believed in partnerships that made sense. "Guest list is finalized," Patricia said, scrolling through her tablet. 218 confirmed. "Good." Photographer confirmed. Videographer confirmed. String quartet confirmed. Serena nodded. "Anything else?" Patricia hesitated. "The seating chart. A few people are concerned about where they're placed. Let them be concerned." Serena had no patience for status games. She had arranged the seating based on professional value, not personal feelings. If someone didn't like their table assignment, they could choose not to attend. As Patricia left, Serena glanced out the window again. The cleaning crew was starting their rounds. She could see them moving through the offices below, pushing carts, emptying bins. Serena had never learned their names. They were part of the building's infrastructure, necessary but invisible, like the ventilation system or the elevator mechanics. You didn't think about them unless something went wrong. She turned away, gathered her things, left for the evening. Her driver was waiting downstairs. The car was warm, quiet, insulated from the cold outside. As they pulled away from the building, Serena saw one of the cleaning crew standing at the bus stop. A man in a worn jacket, hands in his pockets, staring at nothing. She didn't recognize him. She didn't try. By the time the car turned the corner, she had forgotten he existed. 3 weeks before the wedding, Serena held a small gathering in her office. It wasn't official, just her and 5 senior managers discussing final logistics over wine and catered appetizers. The kind of casual networking that reinforced hierarchy without acknowledging it. Rachel Simmons, VP of Operations, raised her glass. "To Serena. May your marriage be as successful as your quarterly earnings." Everyone laughed. Serena smiled. "That's setting a high bar. You've never failed to meet one yet." said Marcus Trent, head of finance. The conversation drifted. Don't see. Try the end of the list, Daniel said quietly. She scrolled down, her expression shifted. Oh. Yes. You're here. She handed him a small card with a table number. Enjoy the ceremony. Daniel nodded, stepped inside. The ballroom was breathtaking, white and gold everywhere. Long tables draped in silk, centerpieces of white roses and orchids towering above crystal vases. A stage at the far end where the ceremony would take place, decorated with flowing fabric and ambient lighting that created an almost ethereal atmosphere. And at the center of it all, near the front, stood Serena Cole. She was stunning. A white gown that fit like it had been designed specifically for her, which it probably had. Her hair swept up, her makeup flawless. She was laughing at something Connor said, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Then she looked up. Her eyes met Daniel's. For a moment, her expression didn't change. Just polite curiosity. Then recognition hit. Her smile faltered. Her eyes widened slightly. Daniel didn't look away. He walked calmly down the aisle between the tables, found his assigned seat near the back, and sat down. The ceremony was about to begin, and Serena Cole was no longer smiling. The ceremony started on time. The music played softly in the background. Guests turned their attention forward. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Serena walked down the aisle on her father's arm, every step measured and perfect, but her eyes kept drifting to the back of the room. To Daniel, the officiant began. Standard words about love, commitment, partnership. Serena and Connor exchanged vows they had written themselves, articulate, polished, emotionally precise. Rings were exchanged. Applause followed. And then it was done. The reception began immediately. Tables filled. Waiters appeared with trays of appetizers. Conversations resumed. Serena moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, smiling for photographs. But she couldn't stop thinking about Daniel. Why had he come? Didn't he understand the invitation was a joke? Didn't he realize he was only making things worse for himself by being here? She excused herself from a conversation and walked toward the back of the room. Daniel was sitting quietly at his table, not eating, not drinking, just watching. Serena approached, her smile tight. Daniel, I'm surprised to see you. He stood. You invited me. I did. She glanced at his suit. Thank you. I wasn't sure you'd find something appropriate. Her tone was light, but the insult was clear. Daniel didn't react. It's a good suit, of course. Serena's smile widened. And it's wonderful that you could take time away from your work. I hope it wasn't too much trouble. It wasn't. Rachel appeared beside Serena, barely hiding her amusement. Oh my God. He actually showed. Rachel, this is Daniel, Serena said smoothly. He works at Cole Dynamics. Doing what? Maintenance. Rachel's smile sharpened. How nice. It's always good to have diverse perspectives at these things. Daniel looked at her. I clean the offices. Right. Rachel glanced at Serena. That must be so fulfilling. It pays the bills, Daniel said quietly. Serena leaned in slightly. And your son? Lucas, isn't it? Is he here? Daniel's expression didn't change. He's at home. Of course. Probably more appropriate. Serena tilted her head. I hope you're enjoying yourself. The food is excellent. The chef is Michelin-starred. I'm sure it is. Feel free to take home leftovers, Rachel added. We always have too much. Daniel didn't respond. Other guests were starting to notice. Conversations slowed, heads turned. Marcus joined them, his voice carrying. Serena, is everything all right? Perfectly fine, Serena said. Just welcoming one of our employees. Marcus looked Daniel up and down. Generous of you to invite. I believe in inclusivity. Serena replied, her tone bright. Daniel finally spoke. Should I leave? Serena blinked. Why would you leave? Because you didn't actually want me here. The words hung in the air. Serena's smile tightened. That's not true. Then why did everyone laugh when you invited me? Rachel's face went pale. Marcus looked away. Serena straightened. I think you're misunderstanding. I heard it, Daniel said. Through the door. All of you. The nearby tables had gone completely silent now. People were listening. Serena's voice dropped. You're making a scene. No, Daniel said quietly. I'm just standing here. Then perhaps you should sit down. I will. Daniel looked at her steadily. After you tell everyone why you really invited me, Serena's face flushed. I don't know what you're talking about. You wanted to see if I'd show up. You wanted to see if I'd embarrass myself. Maybe you thought it would be funny. Entertainment for your guests. Rachel stepped forward. That's not. It's okay, Daniel interrupted. I understand. People like me aren't supposed to be in places like this. We're supposed to stay in the background. Clean up after you. Stay invisible. Serena's voice shook slightly. You're being ridiculous. Maybe. Daniel's voice was calm, measured, without anger or bitterness. But I came anyway. Someone at a nearby table started to stand. A man in his 60s, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit that looked custom-tailored. Excuse me, he said loudly. But I'd like to know what's going on. Serena turned. Mr. Lawson. Henry, the man corrected. He looked at Daniel. Who are you? Daniel Wright. I clean the offices at Cole Dynamics. Henry's eyes narrowed. And Serena invited you to her wedding? Yes, sir. Daniel didn't answer. Henry turned to Serena. Why? Serena's smile was brittle. It was a gesture of goodwill. You thought it would be amusing, Henry said flatly. The room had gone completely silent. Serena's mouth opened, closed. Henry looked at Daniel. Did you know it was a joke? And you came anyway? Daniel hesitated. Then he said, Because I didn't want my son to think I was afraid. Henry stared at him for a long moment. Then he held out his hand. Henry Lawson. Daniel shook it. Henry turned back to Serena. I've known you for 5 years, Serena. I've invested in your company. I've recommended you to my colleagues. But this, he gestured around the room. This is beneath you. Serena's face had gone white. Henry, please. I'm going to leave now, Henry said. And I think you should apologize to this man. He walked toward the exit. One by one, other guests began to stand. Not all of them. But enough. Serena stood frozen as people filed past her, their faces carefully neutral. Rachel touched her arm. Serena, don't, Serena whispered. Daniel didn't move. He waited until the room had quieted again. Then he said, I'm sorry your wedding was ruined. Serena looked at him. Her eyes filled with something close to desperation. Then why did you come? Because you invited me. But you knew. I knew exactly what it was, Daniel said. But I came anyway. Not to embarrass you, not to make a point. Just to show my son that when someone tries to make you feel small, you don't have to accept it. He turned to leave. Serena's voice stopped him. Wait. He looked back. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Daniel nodded once. Then he walked out. The ballroom buzzed with uncomfortable energy. People returned to their seats, but the conversations were different now. Quieter, more cautious. Connor appeared at Serena's side, his face carefully blank. What the hell just happened? Serena couldn't answer. Rachel tried to smooth things over, moving from table to table with apologies and reassurances. Just a misunderstanding. Everything's fine. But it wasn't fine. At a corner table, Elaine Parker sat with 3 other guests. She was 62, a former executive who had retired after decades in corporate leadership. She had been quiet during the confrontation, watching. Now she stood. "Excuse me,"